Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Always great catching up with my next guest. Brian Boom Kelleher is going to be back in action against Journey Newson, UFC Fight Night, April 29th. It's right around the corner. Brian, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, James. How's everything?
Everything's great. Not as good as you, though, man. Good to see you back in action here. We haven't seen you since last June. I imagine you wanted to fight a little bit sooner than this. What's been the reason for the layoff?
Yeah, no, I think it's just kind of been the UFC's end. You know, I've been ready to go for probably at least like 3-4 months now, but I like to stay active. But I think they just kind of, because I'm coming off of a couple losses or whatnot, different matchups had to play out. So it took them some time to reach out, but here we are.
When did you find out? Did you get a full camp for this one?
Yeah, so for this fight, I got a full camp pretty much. I found out about like 4 or 5, like about 5-6 weeks ago from now.
What have you learned the most from your last two fights? Because I think people got to recognize, too, look at some of the guys you're fighting. I mean, these are top fighters in the weight class. What do you take away the most from those last couple fights?
I mean, personally for myself, I just take away like that. You got to be mentally sharp at all times. You know, I think sometimes I get in there and just for whatever reason, I don't feel like myself, or maybe the moment gets to me or the nerves or whatnot. But, I've been working on the mental aspect of things as well as, different things in training. And I think, I'm coming into this fight with a little bit better of a mindset. It's hard to understand why that happens in the moment, but sometimes afterwards, like, man, what was that? Like, I wasn't reacting like I usually am, and I wasn't fighting like I really wanted it,
Okay, interesting. And in one of those fights was against Umar Nurmagomedov. Obviously, there's a lot of hype behind him. People are saying, he's championship material already. What do you make of those claims in terms of him, racking up a couple nice wins?
I think he's definitely got the potential. I mean, he's a really good grappler, and his striking actually, for Nurmagomedov, his striking is actually probably better than his grappling. Throws really good kicks. He's fast. He has a decent size frame for that weight class. So I think he has the potential to do it. I think maybe we want to see him get tested a little bit more. Maybe fight someone like a Ricky Simon or fight someone in that top 5 area to see where he's really at.
Yeah, no, well said, man. And taking on Journey Newson, 14-fight vet. What do you know about him? How do you feel like you match up against him here?
I think it's a good matchup. I think it's one of those fights where the UFC's kind of seeing where I'm at, and he's a little bit of a newer guy. I have a lot of experience over him against better competition in the UFC, I would say. But, with that said, everybody in the UFC is tough, and they all present different things. So you got to be on your toes at all times. And I'm treating this fight like it's my debut, like it's my first fight. So I'm ready to go.
Training camp, anything different for this one? Who you mainly been working with for this camp?
Nothing much different. I've been at Long Island MMA a lot more with those guys over there. Just a lot of young, hungry killers over there that are, just either 3-4 fights into their pro careers trying to get to where I am. So they're trying to take my head off and sparring every day in the gym, which is good for me because I think it's keeping me young. So just been at Long Island MMA. I've been actually training with Jason Rao, who's a really high-level black belt at Vanguard Jiu-Jitsu here in Long Island. So that's been good too.
That's great. And you mentioned the up-and-comers. How important is that in camp to have those up-and-comers and give you those different looks, right, as opposed to, the more established guys?
I think it's big for me because I'm a veteran of the sport. Sometimes, you've had so many fights, it can get monotonous and a little bit burnt out. So for me, being around these young guys is important because they kind of lift my spirit up and remind me of what it was like on the come up, when I wasn't here yet at the UFC level and when I wanted to get here, what it took and what kind of energy you need in the gym. So, I'm a little bit older in the fight game these days. So being around these young guys has really helped me out.
What about the weight cut? I know you've had a couple fights at 145 in between, but that was more pandemic related. So how's the cut going for this one?
Everything's going good. As I've gotten a little older, I tend to hold on to a little bit more weight for longer. But I have it down to a science, pretty much. I mean, I come into these fight weeks a little bit heavier than when my first 3-4 UFC fights, but nothing substantial. I'm still in the low 150s, and I'll get to fight week about 150, and I'll cut from there.
Who's going to be in the cage with you as far as your corner?
So it's going to be my striking coach, Brian Michelino, my brother, Mac, and then my dad's coming along as the third.
Nice.
Not really so much for technical advice, but, he's been on the journey with me. I like having him there. And just for that, that support as my dad.
Yeah, no, you can't beat father's advice there. How's this one playing out on April 29th? How do you see this going down?
I mean, honestly, I have no choice but to go forward and go for the finish in this fight. I'm coming off 2 losses, so I know, there's a lot of pressure. I'm trying to kind of put that to the side, but it weighs on you a little bit. And I just know that if I go in there, be my best self, go forward, fight aggressive, just want to be in there, like have fun with it, but also like really be present in the moment is really important for me in this fight.
Remind me again, how many more fights you have left on your contract?
Yeah, so that's the big thing, what I mentioned before about the pressure. So this is actually the last fight on my deal.
Okay.
Typically, they re-sign you after 3, but this is the 4th. So this is like do or die for me, which is motivating, but also at the same time, it's stressful. But yeah, it's the last one. So
There you go. Go big or go home, as they say. And speaking of pressure, your New York Islanders, they made the playoffs. Are you feeling optimistic? Because I think with the goaltending, if they can get past this first round against Carolina, I think they could go pretty far.
yeah, exactly. I mean, you know what? It was either Carolina or Boston. I was like, let's get Carolina, I think.
Yeah,
Boston,
they have injuries and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Boston's team is like stacked and they're looking amazing. So that would have been a tough first round. But I think this one's doable. If Sorokin stays strong in there, he's one of the best in the league. And Barzell is actually playing tonight, I think, which is a good sign.
He is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I'll be watching tonight for sure.
And how are you liking Bo Horvat? Because, he's been doing quite well for you guys.
Yeah, no, he's been a great addition. He's such a skilled player, very good positional, both, going forward and back checking. And, he started really hot. He kind of slumped a little after that. But I think he's been a great addition because we needed more offense for sure.
Yeah, and he's helped it a lot. And that's going to be a good series. And this is going to be a good fight, man. April 29th, UFC Fight Night. Brian, always appreciate the time. If there's anyone you want to thank before we get out of here, any sponsors, any social media, I'll give you the last word.
Thanks, James. Yeah, thank you to my sponsors, Vita Cryotherapy, CBD Living, and Extend for my supplements. And thanks for the time. Appreciate it.